Let me give you two numbers, 250 and 900. Both of them can get you from home to work. One is the cost of a bus ride. The other is what some people spend every single month on a car. Today, let's talk about which one actually makes sense. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chris Aima, and today I will be talking about whether it is wiser to rely on public transit or own a car, especially here in Canada. You know, this is not theory, it's my lived experience. Let's start with the reality of taking the public transit. Public transit is not just about hopping on a bus. It's about planning your entire life around time. You're waking up earlier than necessary, I would say. Sometimes an hour, other times 2 hours, just to be safe, because the bus doesn't go straight. It doesn't just go to where you want it to go. It moves in circles. It stops everywhere. It connects to other buses that connects to other buses. So even if your appointment is at 10 a.m., you have to leave your house at 8 a.m. just in case one bus is late, just in case the connection doesn't line up, just in case, your whole day pretty much becomes buffer time. And let's not even talk about hanging out with friends. That's another story, which, as a new immigrant, you really want to spend time, being part of a community. So if you don't have a car, you're constantly asking yourself, can someone pick me up? Who's driving? Can you drop me back home? You're calculating the time. When does the last bus run? Will I have to leave early? Sometimes you want to stay longer, but you have to leave because you don't want to be stranded, or that's when whoever is giving you a ride wants to leave. So you have to leave when they want to leave. So you have to decline invitations, not because you don't want to go, but because transportation, it's a whole plan on its own, and at some point it really starts to affect your social life, and that's not a good place to be, when you just move into a new place, right? And also imagine that you have a job that ends at midnight, and so your shifts obviously ends at 12 a.m. Your bus time though is 11:55, even 12 a.m. But that situation is already like a very naughty situation. At 11:40, you're no longer thinking about work, you're thinking about the time. And you're hoping that your colleague comes early. Like even 5 minutes early would be enough for you. You'll be praying, because if they come early, then you can run. Your heart's racing, your shoes slapping the ground, and now you're just imagining that you missed that bus. Like just imagine you missed the bus. Okay, well, you say there's another bus, but then you need 2 buses to get home, because if you miss the first one, now you've missed the connection time of your other bus. So now the second bus is gone. So you're standing outside, it's cold, it's past midnight, and you're thinking, oh my God, I have to be back at work at 8 a.m. So that $2.50 ride has now turned into what? An Uber. You just have to take an Uber home. And imagine if this happens, regularly, often. It's just inconvenient. It's really exhausting. So in other news, public transit works until it just doesn't. It works when your life is structured, when you have regular hours, regular routes, daytime movement for the most part. But when your life becomes unpredictable, you have late night shifts, or you just pick any shifts, you start early, or even for emergencies, that's when you really start to feel the limitations of bus. So now let's talk about owning a car. Some people think, oh, well, now I have a car, I would have no stress. But, having a car is just stress in a different form, because now you have to think about insurance, think about parking, maintenance. Parking, let's pedal back and talk about parking a bit, because this is really personal to me. So I had to write CELPIP, right? One of the exams I had to write, and where I parked, I had to pay for it. And interestingly, I could only pay for an hour at a time. And obviously, since I was writing an exam, which was 3 hours long, I couldn't, keep renewing it. So I'd reached out to my friend to help me pay for my parking every hour. Everything was going well until she forgot to pay parking. She got carried away with, what she was doing. And by the time I finished my exam, I went to where I parked. Boom, $35 parking ticket was just sitting there on my dashboard. Anyway, she paid for it, God bless her heart. But do you know what $35 is in this economy? That money could have bought me a full rack of ribs at Montana, like a whole full rack of ribs with sides. So yes, owning a car is really convenient. Like, I love the convenience that come with owning a car. But thinking about parking alone, for example, it really starts to add up. And let me say this personally, like, I used a public transit for over a year. But then I'm really grateful for that time period, because that decision allowed me to save properly. It allowed me to understand the kind of car that I needed. And some of my friends, they landed in Canada today, the next day they bought a car, and it's okay, because all fingers are obviously not, equal. Some people need a car immediately. Some people didn't. Some people did, but they don't have the money. But the truth is, like, having a car is really not a luxury in Canada, because as you may already know, Canada is massive. The landmass is massive. The distances are long, and the grocery store is not just around the corner. Sometimes the cheaper store is farther away. Sometimes you get better deals if you can move around. With a car, you can buy things cheaper from Facebook Marketplace, like just go impromptu to pick up something. You can have better store prices at stores, just without stress, visiting multiple stops. And that's not something you can do on a bus, because multiple stops with a bus, it's not for the weak. Like, you're carrying bags, the timing, the transfers, like watching the clock. It's just not something you can do. So at some point, you just realize that this is really costing me more money than energy. And so this is where, like, balance comes in. Where car starts making sense, and your time becomes, valuable, your movement becomes frequent, your lifestyle becomes less predictable and not about rushing. You just really want to be ready at all times. So we're like kind of like back to the numbers, $2.50 or $900. One demands your time, the other demands more money, and obviously neither one is wrong. The smart choice is the one that fits where you are right now in your life. So it's about being honest about what trade-offs you're willing to make while you build your life in a new country. You're all tools, and what matters is how do they serve you. So that's just something I feel like everyone would have to answer for themselves. Anyway, thank you for staying tuned and listening. And if you really like this conversation, please like it, share it, and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, what would you think about using the public transit, or have you moved to owning a car? What are the differences, and which would you say is better? Anyway, thank you for stopping by, and I will see you in my next video.